So we've talked about domain, let's talk about range. Okay, what is range? The range of a function is a set of outputs, okay? And outputs are our y coordinates, all right? So we have to shift our focus for how we're looking at this function. Instead of looking at the leftmost point, we want to look for the lowest point, okay? And the lowest point isn't going to always be the leftmost point. And again, we're not used to reading the English language from the bottom to the top. We're not used to reading the English language from the right to the left. So it's a bit awkward to get into this habit when we're doing range, right? But what is the lowest point of this function? If this function is falling off the graph and going towards this low point, then we know that the lowest point in this graph is negative infinity. And the same rules apply. I'm going to trace this graph, okay? Same thing I did with domain. I'm just going to trace as it goes up, okay? And it reaches this point right here, which is, call it, well, what is that, about 12 and a half, right? 12.6 exactly. So this is the highest point. Then it goes back down. I can keep tracing, which is fine. But really when we're doing the domain or the range, we want to see, does this graph pick up again somewhere else and continue going up? So like immediately across from this point right here on this part of the graph, it continues to go up. So I've covered all of these y values with this one piece of the graph over here. And then it picks up on this part of the graph and continues going up. So in essence, this part of the graph, and I'll use a different color for this, okay? This part of the graph and this part of the graph, kind of redundant when it comes to the range because I've already covered all of those y values right here, right? So I can keep tracing, don't get me wrong, right? You can keep doing this. But what really matters is we pick up again at this point and then we continue going up towards positive infinity. I realize that's kind of a complicated concept to grasp. So you could just keep tracing this, okay? As long as you don't pick your pencil up off the page, right? There's no breaks, jumps, asymptotes, things like that. Then the graph keeps going towards positive infinity. We know that our range goes towards positive infinity. And just to reiterate one more time, always parentheses when we write an infinity, okay? Something I haven't mentioned before, but I should mention now. You'd never write a positive infinity first because this value is either the leftmost point when we do domain or it's the lowest point when we do range, right? So positive infinity cannot be a low number, right? Or a negative number, right? So we write the negative infinity first, right? This, by that same idea, this number here, this will never be negative infinity. Okay, you'll never have the rightmost point be negative infinity. All right, negative infinity always on the left, positive infinity always on the right, assuming that we're going to those extremes.